Coming into this offseason, if you were to ask me who had the most important offseason out of any team in the NBA, I hands down would tell you the Detroit Pistons. Coming off a spectacular season, regular season wise, with over 60 wins and then kind of a disappointing finish in the playoffs, the Pistons probably have the most important decisions to make out of any team in the NBA right now. But out of all those decisions, the most important one out of all of them is what are they going to do with Jalen Duren? Jalen Duren just came off his breakout all-star season where he averaged about 19 points and 13 rebounds per game and was a first-time all-star this season. All the Detroit Pistons have to do is sign him to an extension this offseason and the deal is done. But that's the crazy thing, is the Pistons have a walking double-double at 21 years old and they don't want to pay him.
That was just a good heads-up play by Jalen Duren. That was a massive dunk. That was a huge dunk. Man, Jalen Duren's on another planet.
Because the way that he has performed, he has been anemic, to say the least. This dude averaged 19 a game, was an all-star, and you had 10 points a game, a virtual no-show. JB Bickerstaff doesn't even go to you in the fourth quarter, doesn't even go to him in the fourth quarter. That is very, very, very bad.
Jalen Duren was benched in the fourth quarter and all of overtime. He has not been, I'll say himself, it feels like, in this postseason. Is he playing himself out of a max contract?
But very quickly, before we get into the rest of this video, if you guys enjoy this type of content, all things NBA, all things hoops, please make sure to hit that like button on this video. It shows that you like the content that I'm pushing out, and it shows that you want me to make more of it. And I can do that for you. And also, if you guys want to take it a step further, join my community. Make sure to hit that subscribe button. I would love to have you. I'm trying to foster a community of people who love to talk basketball. So if that sounds like you, make sure to hit that subscribe button. But with all that out of the way, let's talk hoops. So why in the mother F do the Detroit Pistons not want to pay their all-star walking double-double 21-year-old center? Well, you really don't have to look very far back. All you have to do is look back at this past year's playoffs. Now, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm not going to lie. The Pistons had kind of a disappointing playoff run when compared to what their regular season record showed. I know there's a lot of Pistons fans that are happy that, the Pistons almost made it. They were one game away from the Eastern Conference Finals. They haven't been back there in so long, but at the same time, it hurts a little bit because this team was in the top of the East and won over 60 games this year. And so, everybody coming into the playoffs were like, this is a dangerous team. And honestly, the Pistons really looked nothing like a dangerous team for most of the playoffs. And a major reason for that was Duren. Duren had one of the most monumental collapses in the playoffs I've ever seen. And in the playoffs, he went from a 19 point per game scorer and a 13 rebound per game player down all the way to like 10 points per game. And it's not like he was just taking less shots and that's why he had less points. He was kind of taking less shots, but he was also making less shots. And we also saw his field goal percentage drop like crazy in the playoffs as well. He got embarrassed in the first round by the Orlando Magic. Oh my gosh, man. I watched every single game of that series and I was praying to God by the end of the series that JB Bickerstaff would throw in third string center Paul Reed over Jalen Duren, because that's how bad Jalen Duren was playing. When the Pistons got bounced in that game 7, they had a ton of questions because before the playoffs, if the playoffs had never happened, Jalen Duren was going to be probably a guaranteed supermax player. The supermax contract that he is eligible for this offseason, he was probably going to get. And all of a sudden, within a month and a half, a month and a half, you're not even sure if you want to pay Jalen Duren $35 million a year. But the issues aren't just about his playoff dropping. There are broader issues when it comes to him as a player. He is unbelievably bad on defense. He is one of the worst defensive centers in the league. And I know when you look at him with his rippling muscles and, you know, chiseled jawline. Pause. But when you look at a player of his stature, like, you think that no one is taking it down in the paint on him. But he's one of the worst defensive centers in the league. And so the Pistons, being this ultra gritty, ultra defensive team that, you know, they have the reputation of, well, actually, when it comes to holding it down low, their starting center is like far from that. And so along with, you know, them not being as confident in Duren after these playoffs as they were, all of a sudden the decision gets a lot harder on who do they want to allocate this large sum of money to, and they're not sure if it's gonna be Jalen Duren. Now, the Jalen Duren trade rumors have been a roller coaster so far this offseason. You know, about a week ago, I saw a report that he was going to look for a sign and trade. The Pistons, you know, couldn't agree with him on a contract. And then, I'm not even joking, 30 minutes after that report came out, another one came out that basically said the exact opposite and said that the Pistons are committed to trying to, you know, come to contract negotiations and come to a price that they're both happy with. And so, you know, I kind of thought, all right, it looks like Duren's probably going to be back on the Pistons. But the reports that just came out today have me not as confident that that is going to happen, because there have been two reports now that Jalen Duren has met or is going to meet with the Sacramento Kings to try and, you know, negotiate sign and trade talks with the Pistons and with the Kings. But also tomorrow, as I'm recording this on Tuesday, Jalen Duren is also meeting with the Los Angeles Lakers to discuss the same exact thing, because you know, reportedly the Pistons and Duren are very far away from the price that, you know, they can agree on. I think one report that I saw is that Jalen Duren is expecting at least $40 million a year for his, you know, upcoming extension. And obviously the Pistons don't think he deserves up to $40 million a year. So that's kind of where the disconnect happens. Anything can happen at this point, but it's starting to lean more and more and more towards Jalen Duren not being on the Detroit Pistons when this next season starts. And personally, for me, I think the Detroit Pistons are kind of making a little bit of a mistake. As someone who is a huge Detroit Pistons fan, I mean, I got the foam finger to back it up. I follow this team a lot. You know, I think about the Detroit Pistons probably more than most men my age should be thinking about an NBA team. And personally for me, I just don't get why the Pistons are writing this guy off after one bad playoff series. Like, he's 21 years old. I'm 25. I'm 25 years old. He's 4 years younger than me. I remember what I was doing when I was 21. It was drinking in a college dorm, playing video games, and cheating on homework. And so I think it's kind of silly that all of a sudden the Detroit Pistons organization is like writing this guy off like, nope, this is the best he's ever going to get. Like, you know, he's always going to be a playoff choker. He's never going to get any better. Like, I just think that's crazy. Like, he has so many years still to get better before he even hits his prime of age. And also, like, this was his first playoff appearance where he was a bona fide second option on a team. And so, you know, night in and night out, both series, teams are going to focus heavily on defense on him. Like both teams are game planning against Jalen Duren. And, you know, he obviously struggled with that. But when you look at the year before, when the Pistons played the New York Knicks in the first round, and this was a series where Jalen Duren wasn't focused as much on, he hadn't cemented himself as the Pistons' second best player, he had a pretty good playoff series. Like, and so it's not the playoffs. Like, he doesn't, you know, shrink when playoffs come around, because I felt like he was pretty good in that New York Knicks series. It's just that this was his first taste of playoff basketball where teams are keying in on him every single game, and he wasn't ready for that. But again, he's 21 years old, and he has so much more, you know, potential experience with this Detroit team and the players that they have on them to get more experience in the playoffs and handle tough defensive matchups better. I just think that Detroit is just betting on the wrong thing. They're betting on Jalen Duren being, you know, this playoff choker and kind of showing that this was the real him, instead of betting that, you know, a 21-year-old center in his first major playoff appearance isn't going to get better over the next couple years with some more experience. When you look at it like that, I don't know. It's tough. And I get where the Pistons are coming from, and I get where a lot of fans are coming from. You know, you just saw the 60-win Pistons not even make it to the conference finals, and an easy guy to blame for that is Duren. And so I understand, I can see it that way. And also, you know, it is tough to give all this money to a player where you're not fully sure, you know, whether he's going to pan out or not. But I just see it more likely that Jalen Duren is going to continue to get better and handle, you know, tough playoff matchups better than, you know, him like squandering it every single year and, you know, being a playoff dropper for the rest of his career. And so, you know, if the Pistons end up doing a sign and trade for Jalen Duren with some team, you know, whether it be the Kings, whether it be the Lakers, whether it be anybody else, personally for me, I am leaning towards that being more of a bad decision than a good decision. I don't think it's a completely horrible what are you thinking decision, because I can see, you know, why someone would not trust Duren and not want to give him the money. But personally for me, if I was sitting in the GM position for the Pistons, I'm probably giving Jalen Duren that $40 million a year that he wants. But, you know, we're just going to have to see how this story progresses. Once he gets done with these meetings with the Kings, with the Lakers, with any other team that he wants, you know, what's going to shake down, I'm really not sure. But with everything coming out, it's looking more and more likely that Jalen Duren is not going to be a Detroit Piston in this coming season. Let me know what you guys think. First of all, you know, where do you think Jalen Duren's going to go if he doesn't go back to the Pistons? And also, you know, do you think not re-signing Duren is a good decision or a bad decision by the Pistons front office? But yeah, I mean, you guys made it to the end of the video. So, I mean, first of all, thank you guys so much for watching the whole video. But second of all, you guys watched the whole video. You obviously enjoyed it. So make sure to hit that like button on your way out. And if you guys want to go just a little step further, make sure to hit that subscribe button, join my community. I would love to have you. But yeah, that's really all I got for today, guys. So as always, peace and love.